Denny Hamlin calls for leadership to step up among the conflict between him and Ty Gibbs. Connor Zilisch has a new crew chief coming from an established race team, and NBC wants nothing to do with the playoff talk. Let's talk about it. Yo, what's good, everyone? My name is Jet. Hope you're all having a wonderful Tuesday. We got 3 stories to talk about. If you haven't already, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe for more content, comment your thoughts down below on any of the 3 stories we'll be discussing in today's episode. As always, timestamps will be available in the description if you want me, or if you want to jump cut to whichever story that you're most interested in. We're going to first start off with the news that was just announced earlier today, and that is Connor Zilisch. We know he'd be replacing Daniel Suarez at Trackhouse in 2026. We don't know 2 things. We didn't know, number 1, what car number he's going to be driving, or 2, the crew chief. Well, we know one of those 2 things. Randall Burnett, who had been the crew chief for Kyle Busch and the crew chief for Tyler Reddick since I want to say 2020, 2021, is now jumping ship, leaving RCR to join Trackhouse for Connor Zilisch and that team. Now, as a result of this announcement, you have some people that are happy, some that are sad. You have some people that are among RCR fans or Kyle Busch fans that are glad, happy to see Randall Burnett leaving that 8 car, specifically leaving Kyle Busch, because he hasn't been the greatest. To put it lightly, he has brought in some bad race cars, some very questionable race setups. When that 8 car has been in position to win, they somehow fall apart and just fall behind on strategy. Others are looking at Randall Burnett as a good crew chief and seeing it's only an RCR issue, a culture issue, and not so much a person in terms of Randall Burnett that is a problem. They don't see that Randall's a problem. They see that RCR is a problem. So there's been some back and forth argument as to whether or not this is a good decision for Connor Zilisch. On the other side of this, if play devil's advocate, I do think it is a good idea to pair Connor Zilisch with a veteran crew chief, someone that has experience working with championship drivers or championship caliber drivers to be able to nurture and help and grow Connor Zilisch. Because like I say, Randall has worked with Kyle Busch, has worked with Tyler Reddick, has worked with AJ Allmendinger in the past, so he has spent a long time up in the pit box. So on one side, it is good to have a veteran crew chief. Is Randall Burnett the best example? I don't know. That's up for you to decide. Next, we're going to talk about, of course, is the fallout from what took place on Sunday involving Ty Gibbs and Denny Hamlin. When Denny Hamlin moved Ty Gibbs out of the way and sent him into the outside, while Ty Gibbs, I believe, either finished last or second to dead last. As a result of this, no surprise, all the reporters wanted to talk to Joe Gibbs, the owner of the company, to talk about what took place on the racetrack. He said, quote, "It's always the drivers that have to handle that. They're the ones that got the wheel. And so I think that's always the case. So that's what we'll do. I think those guys all are the ones driving the cars. And so we'll kind of get those guys, we'll get together on their own and figure it out. I think it's hard for me, okay? It's not me, it's the drivers. That's the way I've always looked at this." Now, this is very interesting, I think, his remarks, because the circumstances. I do believe that if this was a different driver involved with Denny Hamlin, aka not his grandson, I do think that he would have had a much stronger reaction in terms of the situation, because I understand both sides. I understand Ty Gibbs racing hard. He's racing for position, trying to get a stage point. I get all that. Well, at the same time, though, how he was racing the 20, it wasn't just the 11 car. That's something I feel like people need to understand. It wasn't just Hamlin Ty Gibbs was racing very aggressively with. He was also racing Christopher Bell very aggressively, even hitting him a couple times on the straightaway. So he was racing 2 playoff teammate drivers unnecessarily hard when they're trying to fight for stage points, and they know how difficult it is to pass. They need to get as many points as they can, even though it's only 60 or so laps to go in the stage. Still, they need to get their way up, make as many points as they can, since they're in the playoff hunt and not Ty Gibbs. I do feel like it is your responsibility as a teammate to give some leeway, help your playoff teammates as much as you can. Now, I'm not saying that if you are leading the race and the guy is in second place, you just, go on by and just say, okay, here, you go and take the win. But when you're racing for 11th, 10th place, around that range, there's a stage point there, that it can help the playoff drivers and there's no real benefit for you. I do feel like that is your responsibility to at least race them a bit cleaner, to give them more leeway and help your teammates a bit more in that situation. I was kind of surprised to hear Joe Gibbs make that remarks. Now, Denny Hamlin, on his podcast the following day, Actions Detrimental, called on Joe Gibbs Racing as a whole, on leadership, to step up and be like, hey, tell us what the plan is. Do you want us to go out and just flat out race everyone very hard, our teammates very hard? Fine, we can do that. Or if you're trying to win a championship, and he kind of even called out Ty Gibbs a little bit, where he goes, I think Ty Gibbs wants us to win a championship. I mean, his name is on the freaking building. He said that, which I thought was kind of funny, a little shot there. I do think that it is a smart plan from a team's perspective where, listen, we have 3 drivers in the playoffs. You are not Ty Gibbs. If you can, help your guys out. Not to just be not to just roll over and just let them go on by with everything, but for something like this, you could be a bit nicer. I do think, though, that it won't carry on in terms of any conflict. I don't think that Ty Gibbs is going to go to Kansas next Sunday and race Denny Hamlin very aggressively, because I do feel like that whatever the team meeting on Monday was, however that went down, I would hope the message has been sent to Ty. Listen, dude, you're not part of the playoffs. When it comes to a stage, give him some leverage. Like, especially when you're for 6th, 7th, 8th, back there. If for a stage win, fine. For a race win, completely understandable. All bets are off. Go win the race. But when you're racing for position that far back, just let him go. Just help him out. And finally, once again, more talk about playoffs. Now, this has just gone back and forth, back and forth. What is the playoff going to look like? Are we going to have the 3-3-4 format? Is the playoff format going to change at all? Period. Who's making the decisions? Well, on the latest episode of The Teardown following New Hampshire, Jeff Gluck gave a very surprising twist to things, and this kind of alludes to what Jeff Burton said, I believe, earlier in the week on Door Bumper Clear. If you remember that episode, Jeff Burton said that NBC has nothing to do with the playoff talk. It's all on NASCAR. And I was one of those people that kind of went, I don't really believe that, since Jeff Burton is working for NBC Sports. However, Jeff Gluck kind of backed that statement that said that NBC has kind of essentially took their foot off the gas and said, listen, NASCAR, y'all do what's best for the sport. Gluck said, quote, I'm guessing TV probably caught wind of the conversation and didn't like themselves being in that conversation. Didn't like hearing that people are saying, well, TV wants this, TV wants this. This is going to be this way because of TV. And NBC, I'm paraphrasing for what I understand, essentially told them, hey, you guys do what's best for the sport, okay? You guys make the decision. We're not making this decision. If you think whatever is best, you NASCAR, you make the decision. Now, this is very revealing because this now ultimately, whether forced or not, places all eggs on NASCAR's basket. The ball is in NASCAR's court on whether or not to really change the playoff format for the better or keep it the way it is. Regardless of what happens in 2026, more than likely, it looks like it will be NASCAR's decision. Now, do I think NBC is fully off the table? No. NBC is paying close to $1 billion for NASCAR. You're telling me that they're going to be completely fine with everything? Like, yeah, we're not going to, you know what, NASCAR, you do what's best. I highly doubt that. I do think that maybe NASCAR does have final say as to how things may play out, but I don't think that NBC has no say in it. I do think they still got something. They may not be able to say, you know what, NASCAR, we want so and so and so. They may not have a complete, fully detailed list on how the playoffs won, but I do feel like they still somewhat, advise NASCAR to be like, hey, NASCAR, just be like, maybe we could tweak, we could do this, maybe we could do that. Offer suggestions. I highly doubt that they are completely off the table and wanting nothing to do with the playoff talk. But I do think that it does speak to the power of the people. You, the people, because you hear what Jeff Gluck said. TV caught wind of the conversation that TV wants this, this, and this, based on what we were saying and what other people were saying in the garage. And so I do think that the influence of the audience, of the NASCAR community, is growing, and it is making somewhat of an impact. Now, as to what does the playoff format look like for 26, again, still don't know. I'm hearing more and more that the 3-3-4 format with the championship 6 is more than likely going to be the case. There is still that talk of a full season points format. And while that is very unlikely, it is surprising the fact that it is somewhat still on the table, that it's still being discussed. There's also been even talk about maybe pushing the playoff decision back to 2027, but that seems to be extremely unlikely, and that NASCAR wants something done and wants something done for 2026. I'm going to end this off by saying just a couple of thoughts. Again, I always feel like if you want to have playoffs but still have some form of consistency, the original chase format is the way to go. Or what they did in 2011 and 2013, where the top 10 are on points, and then 11th and 12th are based on the drivers who have the most wins that are positioned 11th through 20th, like the wildcard rule that they had from 2011 to 2013. If you want to have some drama in terms of that situation, but still have the consistency and rewarding the best. Then another thing I want to say is that for people that are saying that, oh, just go back to the full season points format, it's not that simple, because I feel like NASCAR, again, they've been having this playoff grid, playoff format since 2014. For 10, 11 years, they've had this form of playoffs and elimination knockout style. They have rebranded basically their entire sport for when August arrives for the playoffs. They've brought in new people, new branding, new marketing, new companies that want to sponsor NASCAR, specifically want to sponsor because of the playoffs. So if you get rid of that, it's going to cause such a massive shift, a massive change into how NASCAR operates at its very core. And so that's why I don't think people can just say, oh, just go back to a full season points format. Yeah, just do that. Everything will be fine. Not that easy. There's going to be a lot of growing pains for a few years, I feel like, if NASCAR were to make this decision. Even though I do think it is best in the long run for a full season points format, or a full season points format that is more simpler and promotes consistency. It promotes the best. It creates stars. You need to have a format that allows you to create stars. And right now, having an elimination format, even if you were to have a 4-race championship 6, it doesn't create stars. It creates more parity. And while parity may be good in the short term, it doesn't do well in the long run because you don't create stars. Look at Formula One. We know Max Verstappen is the guy. We know in IndyCar, Alex Palou is the guy. Who's the guy in NASCAR? There isn't. You could say, oh yes, Joey Logano. He's won 3 titles since 2018, 2 in the last 3 years. Yeah, well, look at how he performed since 2022. In 2023, 2024, and this year, he's produced very little results. Was awful in 2014 in terms of championship drivers. He was awful. Really? That's our champion? What about Kyle Larson? Well, Kyle Larson hasn't won the title in 4 years. You know, he had the most wins, but couldn't make it to the championship for last year. Really? He's the guy? Do you see the issue with the playoffs? Why having eliminations? It doesn't help create stars. And this is why I feel like we need to have a big change. Having a championship 6 4-race battle is like a band-aid on a cracking Hoover Dam. It doesn't solve the issue, and it's going to eventually get exposed once again. You need to have a format that balances chaos of NASCAR. NASCAR is a very chaotic sport, so you need to have a points format that can balance that to have a perfect world. You can have the chaos, but still have the consistency. And having an elimination format, in my opinion, is not the way to go. So the ball looks as though it's in NASCAR's court. So whatever happens, you can blame them. But that is it for this episode of Inside Lines. As always, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. As always, comment down below your thoughts on the 3 stories we just mentioned. But until then, my name is Jed from MDK. Thanks for watching.